For more than a decade, a South Texas militia has been working closely with the U.S. Border Patrol to stop undocumented immigrants crossing through Texas ranch lands.
It's a collaboration the volunteer group calls necessary, although the Border Patrol avoids any endorsement. During their latest operation, our border team embedded with the military to see firsthand how they help protect Texas.
About 5 miles north of the nearest Border Patrol checkpoint in Falfurrias, Texas, and 75 miles north of the border with Mexico lies the Vickers Ranch.
Dr. Vickers.
A 1,000-acre property home to Dr. Mike Vickers, a local veterinarian.
The biggest group I think we had was 9.
Dr. Vickers is one of the original founders of the Texas Border Volunteers, which broke off from the Texas Minutemen Militia about 13 years ago. The TBV is comprised of more than 300 citizen soldiers. Roughly about 24 members meet once or twice a month at the Vickers Ranch to conduct what they call border watches.
And you can get a look at the plan for tonight.
Rocky, as he's known, runs logistics from the base.
Anybody out there want to give base a radio check?
He's the one who calls Border Patrol after units on the ground have confirmed a head count of spotted immigrants in a certain area.
We have agreements with the individual ranchers to go onto their private property. We're not cops. We don't capture anybody. We don't arrest anybody. We arrange for their capture.
These armed volunteers organized in response to what they consider a lack of federal resources to stem the flow of undocumented immigrants through their ranch lands. In 2005, when the group formed, Customs and Border Protection had roughly 10,000 agents. In 2017, the number was closer to 20,000. Meanwhile, immigrant apprehensions by Border Patrol have decreased considerably since the George W. Bush era.
Are you ready? Let's do it. The muster post assignments.
Since their inception, the Texas Border Volunteers say they filtered out all anti-government and radical elements from their organization.
We're going to park on a known trail and watch it. Here's where these guys crossed the last time. Border Patrol do not have the resources to come out here and watch these trails. And that's what we do. We fill a void that they can't fill.
What's going on, Doc?
How you doing?
How you been?
This has evolved over all these years working hand in hand with these Border Patrol agents.
Y'all gonna be out here for the next couple of days, they said?
We call it quits tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay.
But we'll be back probably in a couple of weeks. So
Yes, sir.
Anyway.
Chief, just north of here, there's a known border militia that
We tried asking Acting Border Patrol Chief Carla Provost if collaborating with militia groups helps or hinders the agency's mission.
that works and operates. Oh, okay.
But we were cut off and told it was too local of a question for her to respond to. Repeated requests to clarify this have gone unanswered.
Why do you think publicly the Border Patrol doesn't necessarily endorse a group like yours?
They don't want any copycats. They don't want some other group to show up out there and say, hey, we're Border Patrol, we're Texas Border Volunteer 2, you know, or we're Texas Border Volunteer 3, you know. No.
This is an extremely large and dense area, so it's really a cat and mouse game.
For the TBV to have any advantage, they carry gadgets they say are better than what Border Patrol agents are equipped with, including night and heat vision scopes they buy with the money they raise. With 6 teams out scouting from their designated posts, the only movement they can see on this night are cattle and a drift of hogs crossing the road.
So far, the last few hours we spent out here tonight, we have not been able to come across anyone. However, they say that just a couple of weeks ago, they found 8 people in this exact location.
If we don't toe the line and do what we're supposed to do, welcome met by both the landowners and the Border Patrol will be pulled very quickly.
After none of the teams report activity, the volunteers regroup and head back to base. Even though the night proved not to be fruitful for these men and women, they vow to continue their operations as long as illegal immigration remains an issue. In Falfurrias, near the Texas-Mexico border, I'm Oscar Margain reporting.